In theory, this should be a short episode. We shall see. Here we go. This is Our Android Week with Alan Furstenberg in New York, Bruce Turner in Lynchburg, Virginia, Duke Carrico in Kingsport, Tennessee, Kadeas Kalut in Newport Beach, California, in Menifee, California, Pam Adger. This is Our Android Week. Hey, good to have you with us. I am Dan McDermott, your host. Yeah, so that happened. Okay, so it's big news this week in Android. There was a leak to The Verge about something ostensibly called Android TV. And so I want to talk about that in general. And also 2.5 years ago, I posted something saying it would be great if on my television set, I could have a Hangouts app so that I could use a webcam on the TV, just like a lot of smart TVs have these apps for Facebook, Twitter, whatever, that there should be a Hangouts app so you can actually have a Hangout on a television set. This was 2.5 years ago. And one of the apps in the screenshots that were leaked, assuming they're real, was for a Hangouts on this quote-unquote Android TV. So let me begin with Alan and say, in general, what are your thoughts on this?
Don't begin with me. Begin with Kadeas.
Kadeas?
What's my thoughts on the Android TV?
Yeah, Android TV in general, and then
Well, I'm totally, even though it's a bittersweet relationship here, I'm totally in love with Google TV. I'm always using it, even though it gets on my nerves. There are pros and cons about it. The television side is definitely a few pros about it. Like, I like the menu layout and the whole 9 yards. Cons about it is just rolling updates. There's nothing on it. So to try to revive that platform in a way, I think is good.
To put it in perspective, you have other smart TV boxes, correct?
Right, I got an Apple TV and then the Chromecast.
Okay, so you have different things to compare it to. So how does it rate with those?
It depends on what you're needing to do. I literally only use Google TV for. I like the YouTube interface when it works. It's probably the best setup compared to everything else I've used. Is the best setup besides being on a computer. So I
phrase
like
"when
that.
It works" is an indictment, right?
Right, exactly. I can't figure out why it struggles, but it does. But when it's working, it works 100%, and it's great, and it's a great experience. And I think it's the best. But that's when it's working. When it's not working, that's actually the only use case. So it's now just a box that just sits there when it's struggling or having issues or I'm mad at it. So
is there anything
yeah.
Is there anything Chromecast does better than Google TV?
Chromecast does everything else. So like the option where you can actually throw the video over to the Chromecast, that was also a part of Google TV for the longest time. I could at the same time when I pick up my phone and I hit the button, I have the option to do Chromecast or the Google TV. If I hit the Google TV to watch, let's say, a YouTube video, there is a 40-60 chance that it'll fail. At some point it goes wrong. Chromecast, every single time you hit it, it's there. It's up and rolling.
Okay, so I've seen multiple times in these articles the reference to the quote-unquote the failed Google TV. Is that fair?
Yeah, it's definitely fair. It's a failed product.
So
it's definitely a failed product.
It's based on a version of Android that currently dominates 0.1% of the market.
0.0.
No, it's built on top of Honeycomb. And that has 0.1% of the market. So, yeah.
So really this I guess they're just changing the name. Lipstick on a pig, right?
No, don't say it that way.
They're going to come out with a newer version, but they don't want to tarnish the new product with the name of a failed product. Is that what's going on? Or should the first one have been named, Gingerbread TV or whatever, Android TV or whatever version it was? But this is Google TV 2.0, hopefully done right.
Well, more like 4.0. Just because they've tried to redo this a few times. So
more like 4.4 or 4.5. maybe.
I wish it would go that fast, go that high.
Well,
It's-
no, I'm more referencing the underlying version of Android, probably.
It's funny that there's so much competition for what everyone assumes is a dying industry, the television and the couch.
No, everyone assumes the television and the couch are a thriving industry.
That's
It's
why they're
couch
in
and
it.
television that everyone assumes is dead. And all of these boxes are rushing in to try to fill the gaping void of what used to be known as network television.
But
You're the only person who actually thinks watching TV on your laptop is better. Nobody else does.
no, I don't think that.
Better than what? Watching television on a television?
Yeah, Dan seems to think that the laptop was the ultimate, television interface, apparently.
No, I hate my laptop. I despise my Sony Vaio laptop. I want to put a bullet
Then why are
through
you
it.
always mocking Cadeas and I when we talk about how wonderful it is to control something via a phone, and you keep insisting that no, your laptop is just so much better?
No, I don't say that. I say that
Do I need to pull up the videotape again?
no, I don't use my laptop. I have a Sony Vaio 32-inch
Oh, I'm
television
sorry. You actually
set.
have a desktop unit attached to it because
Yeah. So what I'm saying is that no, the only thing is I have my television set is one of my computer screens. One of my on one of my computers, I have as part of my extended desktop, I have the television set. So there's no need for me to the Chromecast or a Google TV or a Roku would not provide anything to me that I don't already have on my television set because it's on my desk and it's connected to my computer. Now, if it were on my living room wall, like normal people would have a television set, they would not want, nobody's wife is going to allow them to have a computer in the living room connected to the television set. So then these
I can think
TV
of quite a few
boxes,
who would, but that's another story.
if she has a sister, give me some contact information. But I'm just saying that typical situation, absolutely these are attractive products. And I own a Chromecast, but I just stopped using it because it didn't do anything that I couldn't achieve by simply sliding a window over to my television, expanding it, and then I can watch Netflix or Hulu or Amazon Prime Video, whatever I want, no problem. But that's not a normal use case scenario. So I'm not dissing it. I'm just saying that I have an unusual scenario. If I had a living room television that was not connected to anything, then I absolutely would want one of these devices.
My issue with this Android TV is let's put it this way, I have incredibly low expectations for it. I really cannot imagine that Google is going to do anything even vaguely innovative with this box. And once they are doing nothing innovative with this box, it's going to turn into a who cares, because it'll look just like the offering from Amazon. It'll look just like a Roku. It'll look just like an Apple TV does today. It's going to be who cares. It's going to have a crappy at worst, mediocre at best user interface that doesn't really do anything to advance the concept. I mean, Verge opened their reporting with, talking about the horrible state of the interfaces for these boxes, and I can't see them doing anything better.
That's an indictment.
Unless it's basically an advanced Chromecast, which will shock me. Go ahead, Pam.
So what, in your opinion, or yours and Candace's opinion, is the best standalone TV box out there right now? Go ahead and include Chromecast, because I know Apple has one. I know the Amazon's going to come out with one. Android has one. There's the Roku. There's even things like Slingbox, where you have the ability to program your set-top box, cable box, from a remote location and stuff. So, which one do you think is the best?
I think the Chromecast is the best conceptually. And I say that conceptually because I do think it has flaws. I think one of its flaws is not, however, the flaw that everyone else seems to identify, and that's that it has issues with broadcasting your screen from some other device onto the Chromecast. I think honestly, that's a mediocre feature at best. It has use cases, it has good use cases, but it's a mediocre feature. I think what it really is kind of identifying, though, is the fact is this concept of bringing the good user interfaces, using the good user interfaces on the desktop or the mobile device, and using the good display interface on the device that it's meant for, and that's the Chromecast. So delegating the good features to the right devices. And I can't see the Android TV bringing that concept in a useful way, or improving that concept in a useful way. Go ahead, Pam.
I was just going to say, I think that any one of these devices, if you have a television or some sort of device hooked up to the television that has the ability to have an internet connection, is going to and it's consistent and it works on a regular basis, is going to be competition for cable or
Sure.
satellite or anything else. But I consistently hear that I don't hear any complaints about Roku. I do hear complaints about Chromecast, and I do hear complaints about some of the other standalone TV boxes. So, is it an incompatibility issue? Is it a speed of connection issue? Does what Kadea said? Well, when it works great. Is it a connectivity thing? What's creating these issues? Is it the fact that the cable companies are doing something to kind of stop you from using the device?
Well, the issue with Google TV is that Google didn't actually, they're not doing anything to fix little glitches and bugs. It's not anything with software, with network, it is with software. It's not with network or networks or whatever. The reason why their box isn't working is because there's no real support for it, just like whether it's events or anything else on Google. There's not any real support. And then at the same time, they need to become their own content producers like some of the others, or get some of the other people on board, more of the modern people like Netflix and Hulu and people that are doing originals like House of Cards and stuff, because the traditional networks, at least with Google TV, we saw the traditional networks lock each other out or lock Google out of this whole entire ecosystem. So,
well, it's clear they have Netflix on board.
Right. I mean, they got them on board with Chromecast, so all this is just an extension. So
one hopes so. But, this is Google. One of the things I said a long time ago is a company is in real trouble when it starts manufacturing products that compete against itself. I predicted this with Microsoft in 1993, and I'm really beginning to wonder if Google is in that position now.
Okay, so
they have multiple products that appear to be filling the same space and competing with each other, because they don't think they have anybody else they're competing with, but they're wrong. Sorry, Dan, go ahead.
I was just going to say, I wanted to ask about the Hangouts thing, but right now I'm noticing, and this is like the last 3 or 4 shows I've seen, we're dropping frames at a rate about 25%. So if I seem like staggered or whatever, that's why. And I don't know, and I know our audience is tech savvy, so I don't know how to tell if this is a Comcast issue or a YouTube Live issue. But if anyone has any idea, it's not related to the Hangout that Kadeas, Pam, and Alan are in, but the actual stream that's going up, because I have 50 down and 10 up, so it's way more than the 4. I'm only using 4 of my 10 up for this program. But if anyone has any idea how I can diagnose that, please let me know. But I wanted to ask you guys, what do you think about the notion of Hangouts being part of this? Because in the screenshots, one of the apps just like on a Vizio TV, when you see, you see, or any of the smart TVs, you see like your Twitter app, your Facebook app, your Netflix app. There's a Google Hangouts app. Is this
I'll say
a
the
killer
same-
feature,
Dan,
or what is the deal?
I'll say the same thing that I said when you first floated the idea 2.5 years ago. I think it's awesome. I think it really has the potential to be a killer app. I think there's some amazing potential to have family hangouts in the living room. My biggest concern is that in the past 2.5 years, we've seen significant problems with the Hangout user interface. And I cannot imagine that they are not going to totally screw up at least the first, if not the first two, attempts at the user interface for Android TV Hangouts. I cannot see them getting it right.
How come Apple does stuff like this and I understand the race to innovate, but it's frustrating when you innovate so fast with your public versions. It seems like Apple
No,
would
Apple
privately innovate. They're not perfect either by any stretch.
No, Apple in the past few years has taken their cues from Microsoft and have rushed things to market years before they were ready.
They have.
iOS 7 really needed another year to bake, and 7.1 has finally started only started to fix some of the problems. OS X Mavericks still has problems that date back 5 or more years with the operating system.
But one of the differences is with Windows, for example, because Windows 8 was seriously panned. So if I was
that's an understatement.
yeah, so it was basically earthquake. But if I was building a computer, I could buy an OEM. I can still buy OEM 7, or I can buy OEM 8 if I'm building a computer, right? But with Google products, you don't have that luxury. Like Chrome, for example, if something's wrong and it's just pushed out. There's no, what version of Chrome did you update to?
You don't either on a Mac.
So it's the same.
I mean, they boast the fact that iOS has something like a 97% adoption rate. There's a reason for that. They force you over to it at pretty much at knife point, and they won't let you go back.
I wish it was versions, and as irritating as it is when every time I reboot my computer, which I do at least once a week or twice a week, I get that Adobe Flash thing saying, we're updating and I have to go through click wait. At least then I know like it's a new version. Or
So Dan, here's the alternative, because Google doesn't force you to upgrade. I mean, if you're using an Android device, you've got a pretty good chance that you're never going to see an upgrade. That's the alternative. And which would you rather? I know which I'd rather.
Yeah, I hear you. Okay, so do you think that, assuming these screenshots are legit and they look pretty legit, and there's been no, I would imagine that if they were, Photoshop nonsense, that Google would have come out and said this is BS.
No, Google would never. Google doesn't confirm or deny things.
They denied this crazy idea of a social network called Circles. Yeah. I remember because we asked. I said that to Vic. The first article came out. I don't know if it was TechCrunch or whatever. Said that Google was planning a social network called Circles, and he denied it. So, or they denied it because technically it wasn't called Circles.
Let me ask you this question about the proposed Android TV. What do you see as? Do you really think they're going to do something A, different than Google TV, and B, different than everybody else out on the market today?
The problem is that there's not really different. It's more of, can we dominate? So no one's bringing anything new to the table. Maybe the Hangouts thing, you got Hangouts for meetings. If they kind of do something along that line, maybe that'll be this one perk as the reason why you should buy it. But then that means they need to do a hardcore advertising campaign. So.
Okay, well that's interesting, especially considering Hangout for meetings is $1,000 thing, and there's no way they're going to sell this for $1,000.
But there's things in Hangouts for meetings. There are things that you won't get in this original thing. I mean, there's support. There's
Calendar.
unified. What's that?
Yeah. Yeah.
I mean, and obviously you won't get the top of the line hardware that they're offering with it too. So I mean, you're just gonna get. I mean, I'm just guessing. I don't know, but I mean, that would be the only thing that would push it, that I know of, that would push it over and would, hey, I want this platform over something else, but it has to work.
Well, and remember, Chromecast for Hangouts for meetings runs on a Chrome OS base, not an Android base.
It's true. That is true.
What do you think the sales
but
figures
because
are?
it's Android, there's no reason why it can't run. I mean, it runs on our phones and everything else, so no reason why it should be a semi-easy port over.
What do you think the sales numbers are for that?
They haven't announced them. I can't imagine they're very high. It's targeted at business. Business, I'm sure, however, is screamingly eager to get it, though. I've spoken to 3 businesses who are very excited about it. I don't know. I mean, here's my feeling about Android TV. So what? I mean, I'm sure it's fine. I'm sure it's going to be a decent product. I can predict the price will either be $99 or $89. And other than that, it's going to look almost exactly like every other box out there.
Any number of boxes. Speaking of other boxes, the other one that came out was Amazon Fire TV, which is hardware-wise an impressive device. It's
You only think it's impressive because it has a remote.
It's got voice search.
Tell me I'm wrong. He's not telling me I'm wrong.
No, this is like Sreek, who calls me a radical right winger, and Craig, who calls me a radical left winger. So I guess I'm both or neither. But so this is an impressive device, and it's, I guess, I looked at the hardware specs. It doesn't have HBO to go or HBO Go or whatever it is.
Those aren't hardware specs.
But hardware-wise, it seems like the one to get. And so if you are, let me get your take on this, Alan. But my take is, if you don't yet have a Roku or Apple TV or Google TV or whatever, or Chromecast, if you don't yet have one of those things, this is probably the one to get, especially if you're into the Amazon ecosystem. But if you do have one of these devices already and you're reasonably happy with it, then it's not something you should buy. Is that fair?
Yeah, more or less, I guess.
Anything impress you or not impress you about this device?
Not really. I mean, like I just said about Android TV, it's more of the same. It's not really introducing anything really radical. It sounded for a minute like the voice commands were going to be at least modestly radical, but they're not. Every report that I've heard on the voice command since has said, yeah, it was pretty cool the first time, but it doesn't work for everything, and it doesn't even work all that well. And it's a shame, because I think that might be a pretty good UI, if they, a pretty good user interface if they ever get around to finishing it.
I can't bring myself to talk to my stuff.
Really? I yell at my computer all the time.
Yeah, I don't.
You weren't a Star Trek fan, were you?
Yeah, no. I mean, I just can't. I can't do it. I end up pushing the buttons, so I can't be alone. I mean, there's got to be other people out there that are like, I'm not talking to my inanimate objects.
Well, and here's the fun thing, of course, with the. Here's the fun thing, of course, with the Amazon version, as I understand it, is that you weren't going to you were going to be talking to your remote control, so it's not like you didn't have the remote control there anyway. Really, Dan, will you stop holding that up as an example of a good remote, because it sucks.
It sucks. I agree. It sucks.
And that's what I'm most concerned about, is that Android TV is going to bring it back as if it was a good thing, and it's not. I'm sorry, it's not. They haven't found the perfect UI for it yet. I think the Chromecast is coming close. It's not perfect, but it's coming close.
What do you say is wrong with the Chromecast?
I think the biggest problem with the Chromecast is that, what's the best way to put it? There's a huge lag between the devices. If I hit pause on my on the home screen, because it's locked out on my lock screen, it takes at least a moment or two to actually pause it. And trying to rewind is an effort in futility. I mean,
Yeah,
hitting the back hitting the back 10 seconds button is pointless because it takes 10 seconds for that to respond.
I mean,
So
look,
it's things like that.
I mean,
Sorry,
let's
go
not
ahead.
kid ourselves. These are not, like regular televisions where you hit channel 4 and channel 4 comes on every single time. These are not like dedicated hardware devices like an old DVD player or VCR, that would work
Dan,
every
now,
time.
Dan, can I ask you a question?
Yes.
When did you first see a television set?
Black and white television when I was a little kid. I don't know what age exactly. I
Did-
don't
did
have
it
the
have-
exact date noted.
When was the first time you saw a remote control for a television set?
We used to actually get off the couch and have to walk up to the television and switch the dial, turn the dial.
And when you turned the dial, did it have a click between the two channels correctly?
It did, and it immediately went
And-
to the new channel. I didn't have
Right,
to
and-
wait a second or two.
And then did you need to adjust the little dial behind it to actually tune in the channel a little bit better because all of them were a little incorrectly aligned?
Maybe, I'm not sure.
And then if
'cause
you
I
went to
was-
the UHF channels, did you not have that click, but you were always turning the dial like that? And when you did get a remote control for the first time, how responsive was that remote control?
I can't accurately answer those questions.
See, the first television-
You would punch the remote, and it would
I lost Pam. I don't know about any of that.
dial over. It was hilarious.
Pam, can you repeat that? Because I missed it.
Yeah, we all lost you.
Huh?
Repeat what you just said.
I said that it was you had to, when you clicked the remote, it actually moved the dial to the next channel. It was like
Ka-thunk, ka-thunk, ka-thunk.
Yep.
Now,
They told me it used to have a wire too. The
Yes.
remotes.
yep, the remotes used to have a wire. The first wireless remote control, in fact, had a number of interesting problems. Most notably, you couldn't use it during the day because the infrared signal would get messed up by the sunlight. So you'd have the TV starting to change channels on its own. There were a lot of problems with early remotes.
The best
And
ever,
there-
though, Alan, was the sliding remote where you had like from channel 1 to channel whatever, and you could just slide it over. So if you wanted to go from channel 4 to channel 68, you could just literally slide this physical thing over, and immediately you're at 68. That was epic. The difference is now you're not just going to channel YouTube. You're choosing a video on YouTube. I mean, conventional television is a one-way stream towards you. And at 8 o'clock, Bill O'Reilly comes on Fox News, and at 9 o'clock, Maddow comes on MSNBC, and 60 Minutes on Sunday, etc. But this is different, so it's a whole different thing.
Well, and this is the problem, and this is why I keep bemoaning the fact that nobody's come up with decent innovations yet, and why I was particularly pissed about how Google Fiber seems to have handled video. We seem to keep losing the fact that channels are a useful metaphor in a lot of ways. And why is it we've kind of got this bizarre new concept of a channel. So instead of taking the best of the old channels, all we did was take their name and throw it, instead of taking the actual UI and user experience behind them, and throw this other random concept in instead. What would be brilliant is, and I think Google is probably one of the few that could pull this off. Netflix probably has the vision to pull it off as well, but they don't have a box coming. Is once you've started learning my habits, once you start knowing what I am likely to do, pre-cache the damn show, or pre-cache the first minute of the damn show, so that when I actually do start playing it, it plays like that. And then you can start pulling down the stream.
It's interesting that I hear you, and that's a big issue with the modern televisions, that you click to a channel. Like if you are just channel surfing, straight up channel surfing, you've got to click and wait, because they've got the built-in delay, so that for whatever reason, so you don't hear hash noise or whatever, and that's a pain in the ass. It used to be like click, 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 click. With the analog TVs, you could very quickly scan the bands, but now you can't. So it's like a pain in the ass. And then, but the good thing is, unlike VHS versus Betamax, all these kind of have the same stuff on them. So it is good that there are multiple players in this field, so that hopefully,
The problem, though, Dan,
good
is the
stuff
multiple players are all doing the exact same damn thing.
Yeah, it's just about the ecosystem.
So I have a Samsung television, and it has the ability to, actually it's through the DVD player, smart TV. So I have my remote, and if I want to watch YouTube, I can click over to YouTube, and yep, and then I have a dial number, so I have to hit the number 1 3 times to get to C. And if I want to watch Criminal Minds or some YouTube thing, I have to go and I have to search. If I search a freaking keyword, then a bunch of videos come up, and then you have to try and
Right. This is
move down, and then if you hit that button too many times, it'll go past. Then you got to hit it back again. Then you have to wait. Is that right? Okay. So then I hit enter. Yeah, it takes like 20 minutes to get to a freaking video because I can't type it in.
So this is where the
go, Cadeas.
I was gonna say, well, but this is where this is where I say the Google TV YouTube interface works. That's you still don't think the YouTube interface? Have you seen the Google?
No. Keep going.
Okay, well that's why I say that it works, because it knows your subscription feeds. It knows what you're generally going to want to watch, and all you do is load the Google TV app, and it goes and it gets all those videos in order, and then you're able to watch them. And then it's also making suggestions while you're watching these videos. You should try this, and it's all 1 or 2 presses versus the way it's set up on all other interfaces. And so that's why. Go ahead.
The problem is it still doesn't carry over to other interfaces. I mean, to Netflix's credit, at the very least, the fact that you can add stuff to your queue on some other device and then have the queue showing up on your television, that's marginally better. But only marginally. You still can't do everything on your TV. You don't have a decent keyboard on your TV. And that's where Chromecast, I think, made the innovative leap between the two. Is it says you're not going to use your television to try to pick which show you want. You're going to use your remote control, just because your remote control happens to be your smartphone.
That's what I'll say on the YouTube app for Chromecast. After you start your first video, you can queue up all the videos you want to watch, and then they go in order. And that's why I kind of bounce back and forth when I'm doing YouTube between the two, because where I have this other one on Google TV where it's preset, and it already knows it's just going in order based on when it was posted. On the Chromecast, you have the ability to say, all right, let me watch this video by this person, and then let me do a YouTube search for this, and then just queue them up how you want to do them and change the order and all that stuff, however you want to do it. And so that's why I say Chromecast is superior in that area.
And I agree with you there.
I hope they do a good job at spying on our interests to give us good recommendations. I almost wish the NSA would come up with one of these TV boxes, because then they'd actually know what we're interested in. Um, you know,
Well, and that's why I say that Google and Netflix are about the only two that could really do it correctly. Google, because they understand the power of collecting that information, collecting those analytics, and trying to come up with a predictive information like what they're doing with Now. And Netflix, because they've got a massively detailed and understanding algorithm for picking what else you might like. Those are the only two companies that are really paying attention in this field, at least so far. The impression I get from Amazon is that they're just, they don't care. They'll just throw stuff at you in the hopes that you'll buy it.
and
And
if you
how
want,
big do you think this field is?
How many televisions are there in the U.S., Pam?
Quite a
I think-
bit, but people have, they're married to their cable.
They're not married to their cable.
Now that's a generational gap there.
Well, there's an awful lot of older people, okay? The baby boomers are just starting to retire, so I think you got a little while before they give up the cable.
Yeah, but here's the thing, Pam. What if I could make a box that doesn't require them to subscribe to cable, and I could say, if you want, you can keep your remote control, click, 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 and I guarantee you on one channel there will be 24 hours of Matlock. And on the next channel there will be 24 hours of Murder, She Wrote. And on this is more powerful than you think, and they could deliver it. It's not totally nuts. Do you think that generation would go for that concept?
It's possible if they had a really, really intuitive and easy to understand user interface, then yes.
Pam, it would be the equivalent of click, 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 click.
Yeah.
Like, it would have to be the equivalent of what they do today.
Yeah.
And it really would be the Matlock channel, the Murder, She Wrote channel. And you click over to that channel, and it starts the next episode like that. What do you think? What do you think, Cadeas?
I can see that. I can definitely see that. I remember my grandpa wouldn't even change service providers because he didn't want to learn new channels.
Mm-hmm.
Even regardless of how much money it'd save him, he wouldn't switch to service providers because he didn't want to learn new channels. So, and before he passed away, I had started getting him to kind of like Apple TV because that was a simple enough interface for him to understand. As long as he can get his westerns, as he'd always say, he'd be good. So, but yeah, so I can see where that's a difficult area, and I can see where if we could put all of one type of western on one channel 24/7, he'd definitely tune in because then he can just go from one western to the other to the other. so yeah, I definitely see that as being a good idea.
Cadeas, are you monitoring any comments on the actual event?
I have not because I was working on our next story.
Oh,
so,
okay.
but I will take a look now.
Our next story has been moved about 5 stories down, Cadeas.
Oh, so I haven't even been looking.
I've seen I see no comments at all thus far.
There's one comment on the.
Oh, Ryan Gurnick. I didn't even. I'm sorry about that. I don't have it set up over here yet. But Ryan Gurnick said that he's been using Chrome and Chromecast, but Comcast allows users of their service to watch TV on your computer and still have the commercials with like Hulu and all that. So, let's see here.
Oh yeah, because having access to the commercials is a major selling point.
Only at Super Bowl time.
I want them to. I mean, look, all this is about the money, the analog dollars versus the digital pennies. That's what this is about. The amount of money, like look at a YouTube video. If you have 1 million views on YouTube, if you produce a video that gets 1 million views, you're going to get $1,000 to $2,000, right? Bill O'Reilly gets like 2.5 million viewers on Fox News Channel, and I guarantee you that they're not just getting $2,500 or $5,000 in revenue from that show. The amount of money that they generate from conventional television broadcasting is dramatically higher than what you get from YouTube, and that's one of that's the baseline for this story that about Yahoo trying to come up with a competitor that can actually generate revenue with a YouTube competitor or YouTube clone. And so this is a race for that profitable living room. And for whatever reason, people, advertisers are willing to pay big bucks to get on the 6 o'clock local news. That's why that's why you've seen your stations expand their local news coverage. When we were kids, it was, a half an hour and maybe a noon report if you're in a major market. And now it's from 4 o'clock till, God knows when, local news, and they're repeating the same bullshit over and over again. But that's very profitable. And for whatever reason, people, your local carpet store, whatever it is, they're going to spend money on that local television station or on network TV stations that they wouldn't spend on digital. Or maybe there's too much inventory on digital. I don't know what the deal is, but there's a big gap. And I think that's what this is about. They're trying to capture that. Any thoughts on this before we go to the definite non-recommended app of the week? Okay, so there's this app called Virus Shield that was released, and it was the #1 new paid app in the Amazon store. And here's a story from Android Police. It had over 10,000 downloads.
Whoa, hang on a second. It was an Android. Was it Amazon or Play?
Did I say Amazon?
I don't know. That's why I'm asking.
It's Play.
It was in the Play Store. Okay. Go ahead.
Was it in the Play Store? Yeah, it was in the Play Store, right? It wasn't Amazon.
I didn't go looking for it.
Okay, so it was the #1 new app, over 10,000 downloads, 4.7 rating, and all it did was nothing. So they got $4, so they made like minimum 40 grand. So Alan, tell us about this, but is this unique to the Play Store or not? And
no, we might remember that there used to be an iOS app whose name I've totally forgotten now that they charged $99 for, and the only reason why they didn't charge more was because they weren't allowed to charge more. And for $99, it displayed a little diamond in the center of your screen, and that's all it did.
Okay. Actually, that app was $999.
It was $999. That was the max price. You're right. You're right. Yes.
900, and yes, 6 people bought it, and I think 2 of them wanted their money back.
I think it was more than 6.
I thought it was a small number.
No, it was a climbing number.
But was that honest or subterfuge? I mean, there's a difference.
No, it was honest. Right up front, it said this app does nothing.
Yeah, so I have no problem with that. If you're stupid, and you want to buy this because you have to have that Rolex logo on your wrist, then more power to you. But in this case, it promised it would, I guess, scan for viruses or whatever, and apparently the only thing it did was produce a green check mark that you're fine, and someone reverse engineered it, and so this is stealing. And it looks like as soon as this article came out, I mean, very quickly afterward, they got rid of it. So kudos to them. But should there be more screening? I mean, that's the obvious question here.
We've got the usual argument between the way the Android store, between the way the Play Store is doing it and the way Apple is doing it. And maybe there should be more of a middle ground, but any middle ground means that it's going to cost more to get an app in the store. It means that and that's in terms of both time and money. It means you're going to slow things down, and it means you're going to lose a large degree of what we've come to expect from the Play Store. I do think this is the usual warning of caveat emptor, and I'm glad that they took it down, and I hope they are. What's the good way to put it? Nailing the original authors and publishers to the wall, but what are your alternatives?
Well, I mean, if I buy a steak, if I go to Food Lion or Walmart or Costco and buy steak, I know that some government inspector has checked it out, theoretically, or at least inspected.
Why do you hate the free market so much, Dan? Don't you think that everybody has a perfect right to poison themselves if they so choose? You're like Bloomberg, aren't you?
The jungle, if you want to go down that route. But I'm just saying, there's an expectation when you go into a retail store that a product has been investigated to some degree to know if the hanger actually holds a shirt up, or if the vacuum cleaner does in fact remove debris from your carpet. And are these online app stores just, it's the Wild West? Okay.
Is that actually a question?
Yeah.
No, because if it was the Wild West, then I'd hunt you down and kill you with a 6-gun if you sold me a bad app.
Okay. I'm sure Bloomberg would have something to say about, or I guess he's not mayor anymore. So.
About the 6-guns too. Yes, he would.
Okay. All right, so there we have it.
And one more comment from Gernick from the event site that's not seeming to link in tonight. He says that Apple's here we go. The Apple Store requires that you pay $100 minimum to even be able to put apps in the App Store, and he doesn't know what Android's is. I think it's $25, isn't it?
I thought it was 5, but it may be 25.
Okay. It's been a long time.
I may be confusing it with the Chrome Store.
They charge $25 to put an app in the Play Store.
There's a one-time verification fee, which basically sets up your publisher account.
It obviously means nothing if you're able to release an app that is a complete scam.
Hey, if you're charging, if they're charged $100, all they need to do is scam 25 people. They've made their money back.
Yeah, but if Google is saying that you have to pay $25 for us to do some sort of review, and you're able to release an app that is a complete scam and does nothing,
no,
I think there's a cause of action, right?
That's not what you're paying for. You're paying for your account to be verified, not your apps to be verified.
Should apps be verified?
They are. I mean,
obviously
apps they may not be verified enough, but apps are automatically screened for virus protection, and so for known viruses, for possible malicious acts, for a wide variety of other things. So if you're saying it requires more screening, how much time? What are you as a recipient willing to give up? Are you willing to have it so that if an app is out there and has a bug in it, you're willing to wait 4 weeks for it to be reviewed? Is that acceptable to you?
I don't know what I don't know what the specific example is. I hear you.
Willing to wait 4 weeks? Are you willing to have an additional 10% of your of all your money that you get from an app taken off to pay for that additional review? What are you willing to pay? What are the costs?
I hear you. I'm just saying that when an app is allowed to a complete scam app that does nothing but show.
So that would be Angry Birds.
Yeah, well, wait. Well, what would it cost for them to have the app developers sign a frickin' form saying that they're not going to scam their users
They do.
or steal?
That's
then
there now.
they have a legal recourse then, right?
Yeah.
But who can sue over $4? You know what I mean? That's the
Google
thing.
Google
No,
can.
Well,
Yeah, but-
here's the
but-
thing, Dan.
Google required the paper to be signed, and it's Google's reputation on the line.
And more than that, Dan, you got to remember, Google got a cut of that $4, and presumably now they need to refund all of that $4 back to you, and who's going to eat that cost? So somewhere, somehow, Google has a very good monetary reason to go after these guys for fraud.
Do we know that they're going to refund the money?
No, of course we don't know that. We don't know what Google is going to do.
I mean, I hear you about you want efficiency and all that stuff. I'm just saying that something's broken when you're able to produce an app that does literally nothing and is a complete scam, and you're able to.
Dan, I'm confused. We've had virus scanners on the market for decades, and all they are scams.
It is true. They're nothing but scams. McAfee, all of them. They're nothing but scams.
I mean, quite honestly, for decades now, we have been paying companies to do something that the original operating system manufacturer has been unable or unwilling to do on their own. And the original manufacturer is happy to let them do this because they're getting a cut too. Isn't that what you just accused Google of? You look pained, Dan. You have a very pained expression on your face.
I'm pained. I'm trying to
What do you
figure
mean?
out what do you mean? All virus scanners are scams.
They're scams. What do you mean? I mean, they're entire. I mean, there's been a great deal of speculation. That some of the viruses have been created by the virus scan companies. But even ignoring that, okay, I know people who do not run virus scanners on their machines. They have never, ever been infected. The reason why they have never, ever been infected is because they're not freaking morons.
Okay. Well, we've solved nothing.
No, and we're almost out of time for tonight's show.
Yeah. So okay. So I still think that these stores should have some sort of check to see if
But,
if it
Dan-
says it cures cancer, then they should have some sort of letter from a doctor that says it cures cancer,
So
or whatever the hell
So
it is.
again, Dan, you didn't answer my question. I said, what are you, as a consumer or as a developer, willing to pay to get that?
I mean, $4 apparently is what it costs. I mean, this guy made 40 grand minimum.
Are you willing to have every single app in the Play Store be $1 minimum?
No, but I think if you're going to charge for an app,
No. Okay. No. That's not what I said. Because now you also
why is
have
this
to
so
check all of the
outrageous? Why is this
freebies
so
too, right?
outrageous that an app in an app store should be held to the same standards as any retail product in any other store?
What makes you think it's
before
not?
I would,
Dan, it was pulled from the market. What makes you think it's not being held to those standards?
after it's, I mean, it wasn't held to any
Wait a
standards
minute,
until
wait a
it was
minute. If I
it was
find-
exposed
wait.
by a fucking blog, and then it was pulled. Don't tell me
Dan,
that it
guess
was
what?
the
Guess
system.
what?
Don't
When
tell me the
consumer
system
wait.
worked. What the fuck? The system did not work.
When Consumer Reports does their reviews on the vacuum cleaners, and they say this one sucks, nothing off your
Yep.
carpet.
Pardon the pun.
Right? Yeah. Right?
We need to be clear about what
Then-
we mean when we talk about vacuum cleaners.
Then, then what are the consumers' recourse? They don't buy the frickin' vacuum cleaner, and they hold the company who made it in suspicion, right?
Yeah, but there's no recourse here, Pam. Is what I'm saying.
I can't take my vacuum cleaner back to Macy's after 6 months and say this thing does not suck things off my carpet, right? they'll say take it to the manufacturer, right? Because you've got a 30-day warranty, and it's up.
So here's an even better. Here's a good question for you, Dan. It had what, a 4.1
Free
star
market.
rating?
Free market. That's,
It had
that's what-
a 4.7 star rating.
4.7 star rating. So there were tons and tons of people who were giving it 5 stars without knowing that it actually didn't work. Seriously? You're going to rate something based on not knowing whether it works or not?
I'm not an advocate for like excessive government regulation or any of that nonsense. I'm just saying that if you own a retail store and you're selling a product that and maybe this will all have a happy ending and
You own a GM car, Dan?
all these people will get a refund. But
Dan, do you own a GM car?
I have a Ford Taurus. I have in the
Know
past
anybody
on
who owns a
GM.
GM car? How many decades were they selling GM cars with a known fault in them? And somebody should have been looking out? And you're going to worry about a $4 app?
Every
And
car has
say that-
issues. I mean, even the the Tesla Model S just came out with it.
Hey, what's the problem with the Tesla?
So wait.
There's
so
no.
wait
I
a
love the
minute.
Tesla.
So wait a minute. So you hold some guy living in his mother's basement to a
With-
higher standard than an automobile manufacturer. That makes no sense to me. Okay?
And here's the thing, Dan. It's not that we're saying that these guys shouldn't be held, shouldn't be, nailed to the wall or, put up against the wall and shot. But, you're asking for something, and you're asking for something for free, and then you're saying, and I'm just wondering what in the world you're trying to say and how this dovetails with everything
I'm not
else
saying
that I know you believe.
No. What I'm saying is that the Google Play Store, which has the big G branding on it, had this app listed without any investigation, allowed it to be sold to over 10,000 people. Now I don't know if that means 11,000 people or 5 million people. I have no idea. And they paid $4 a piece, and it was a complete scam. And I'm saying that that is a bad thing, and that if Google is going to be associated with a store, that maybe they should, if it's a straight up game, you can argue whether a game sucks or is good, like that silly game you reviewed.
So to go back to the vacuum cleaner analogy, okay, are you going to sue Sears because they sold you the Electrolux vacuum cleaner that doesn't work?
Well,
That was rated by Consumer Reports 6 months later as one of the worst vacuum cleaners on the market today?
I'm probably not going to sue Sears, but I'd be
Why
more
not? They're the
likely.
ones that sold it
I
to
would
you.
be more likely to sue Sears over a $200 or $300 or whatever it is vacuum cleaner than I would be to sue Google over a $4 app. There's some responsibility. If I would not knowingly allow an advertiser, like I'm a newspaper publisher, right? I would never knowingly allow an advertiser to scam my readers. I
Today is
absolutely
comment.
would not allow that, because there's a trust factor there. And
Well,
if I had
comment
any
today.
suspicion, I would check it out. And I've been in that situation before. Go ahead, Kadesh, you got a comment?
Yeah, so Ryan Gernick says as a developer, he doesn't see why it would be such a problem to wait 4 weeks because his user base would not have known about it being released. Something
Really?
that
You've never noticed a bug in your application that you shipped, and you wouldn't, and your users not notice the same bug? Come on.
A bug is a different thing from a complete scam.
But here's the thing, Dan. If I introduce a version with a bug, a scammy version with a bug, and then I say, "Oh, I need to push a bug fix. It's urgent," and in the bug fix, I actually introduce the scam. How are you going to catch? You see, there's the problem. If you don't enforce the scanning consistently, if you make exceptions like this, somebody's going to exploit the exception.
They need to address this issue if for no other reason than as a classic example. We have spent 15 minutes on this.
We have spent
Which-
17 minutes on this.
I stand corrected. which would not have
About to be
occurred,
18.
which would not have occurred had this been in the Play Store. But the fact
What?
is,
No, Dan. No. That was a cheap dig.
That
And
was
it's
a cheap dig.
It was. It
says
was a
the
cheap
guy
dig.
says the king of the cheap digs.
It was a
over
cheap, yeah,
there
but
with
all
the-
my digs against you are true.
the horizontal
it was a cheap
stripes.
dig. It was a cheap dig because they have corrected it. As
They
soon as
corrected
found
it
out
after
they released the
after
product.
10,000 people spent $4 a piece.
But
is my
10,000
issue.
people in an app store is not a lot of people, Dan.
I'm saying that all that's bullshit. Listen, here's the deal.
Wait.
The publicity about this.
Okay,
it
we're
was
at
the
an hour.
number
We gotta
one
call
new
it.
paid
Thank
app,
you, everyone.
and
We
it was
have
this
two
complete
shows.
scam. This is a disastrous publicity situation. Anyway, I'm good. Everyone else here concedes defeat. I'm right, and they're all wrong. So
Well, Ryan Gernick is not conceding defeat yet.
Google does
So-
not care because they can claim that they don't know. They still make money. They'll probably.
exactly.
Do we know if they're going to refund the money? In a case like this, do they refund the money?
It depends. It depends. I mean, that changes. So
If they do refund the money, then they're
basically,
admitting
if there's a
culpability.
refund, then Google refunds as well. Obviously.
Yeah, but this guy has a cash. He's long gone, right? I mean, let's not kid ourselves. So if
How long has it been in the market?
it's the top new app.
Oh, so it hasn't been in the market that long, so he doesn't have his money.
I don't know, how does that work? How long does it take?
It can take a couple of months to get your first payout.
Oh, really? So this could have a happy ending. Everyone can get their money back, and this guy gets nothing. But he,
And even if he
Lives
did
to-
get something, Google certainly could claw it back from his bank account because they have his bank account.
And Ryan Gernick, it's taking a little bit to jump in here, but Ryan Gernick is also saying to you, Alan, as a programmer, he doesn't have bugs in his applications. So-
Really? Really? Okay.
all right. So it looks like we've settled this issue. So
Oh, no. He's probably right. He doesn't think of them as bugs. He thinks of them as features.
Okay.
I understand now. They are features. They are unexpected blessings upon his users.
some new numbers for Android are out. What's the deal with this?
I didn't even get it. We are over time, Dan.
I'm looking at the list here. I've skipped 2 topics, and I see this one's still there. Is that new, or
Well,
what's the deal?
that's only because I didn't get a chance to cross it out.
Oh, okay. Do
We can cover it, or we can end the show.
we can do a very quick version since I've just announced it.
The very quick version is, as they have every month, Google has announced the most recent usage statistics for the 1-week period ending April 1st. Jelly Bean now has over 50% of the market. That's all 3 versions of Jelly Bean now dominate over 50% of the market. However, Jelly Bean 4.1, their first release, still has the most with 34.4%. KitKat has just over 5%, which I actually consider somewhat surprising, considering all of the models that have KitKat right now. Froyo is still hanging in there at 1.1%, and Honeycomb is finally about to die at 0.1%.
But Gingerbread still, man.
Gingerbread still 17.8. It's still dropping like a stone, but it's hanging in there.
It's like 3 years old, right?
4 years old at this point, I think.
Anybody got an app?
No, wrap it.
Hey, we have 2 shows. We have Google Plus Week, which is every Friday at 8:30 p.m. Eastern, 5:30 p.m. Pacific. Don't miss it. All the cool kids watch Google Plus Week, 5:30 p.m. Eastern on Friday. And we also have this program, which is our Android Week, which is Monday nights at 9 p.m. Eastern, 6 p.m. Pacific. We want to thank you all for watching. And until next week, have an awesome Android Week. Thanks.